In this video we're going to start to look at the graphs and what the graphs tell you about the adjustments and alterations you need to make to your outlet valve and hammer assembly system and also to the regulator. Now I can't stress enough how important it is that you make graphs, keep these safe, and every time you make an alteration to the compression of the springs or the travel of the hammer, or the pressure of the regulator, or the restriction in the transfer port, then when you do a graph, write these alterations on it so you can keep the graph, look at its shape, and then compare it to the next one when you've made some alterations, so you can see what you've done. And obviously also keep a record of how much you've compressed springs by. If they've got a spring adjuster screw, 1 turn, 2 turn, and make a note of that. So let's make a start. Now the first graph that we'll look at is hammer bounce, or say outlet valve and hammer bounce. This is very common once you've fitted a regulator into your rifle. It seems to be a bit of a nightmare, but it can quite easily be solved. One of the ways of solving it has other positive effects. So you've calculated, or you've spoke to people and you decided that this is the number of shots that you can get once you've put a regulator into your rifle. However, you've put the regulator in, and although the power is perfectly within the boundaries that you've set yourself on the goals, it doesn't get to the number of shots that you were expecting. The power drops off far quicker and far sooner. And obviously this is a bit of a worry for you. Why is this happening? Originally you were getting this many shots. Although there was a curve, you were getting more shots, and now the regulator's in, it's perfectly flat, but the number of shots has gone down. So this is a quite common email that I receive. Oh, I was fitting one of those regulators. Oh, I bought an XYZ regulator. I fitted it in. Oh, it's fantastic. 6 feet a second difference I've managed to get it down to. Now I've weighed the pellets. But I reckon I should be getting 100 shots. My mate gets 110. I'm only getting about 70. I'm not very happy. Is the regulator broken? No. The problem you're experiencing, and it's the most common problem, and it's this bounce. And what happens is, how do I explain this? The air, when you fire your gun, the air doesn't come out the outlet valve, up the transfer port, and then go and expand as it goes down the barrel. It comes out, goes around behind your pellet, and the air passes down the barrel as a slug of air, if that makes sense. So what happens is, you've got less shots because the hammer has bounced back and forth 3 or 4 times. So it's gone bang, 12 foot-pounds, bang, 9 foot-pounds, bang, 4 foot-pounds, bang, 1 foot-pound, and then it stopped. But it does that very, very quickly. So all you hear is bang when you fire the gun, bang. You don't hear every time you fire it as it bounces multiple times. It just goes bang because it happens so fast. Now, because it's a pulse of air pushing one pellet, although it's followed by other pulses, it doesn't put the power up, it just wastes air. So to get over this, what you need to do, there's two things. The most basic thing is to increase the compression on the outlet valve spring. Now doing this obviously has a knock-on effect, so that you'll have to either open up the transfer port screw or open up the transfer port size, or compress the hammer spring, or let the hammer travel further to overcome the increased compression. But it's when the system hits an area where it's happy to oscillate, the air pressure in here bounces and everything's just right, and it goes bang, 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 bang very quickly. So you just need to alter that by generally increasing the compression on the outlet valve spring, and then make the other adjustments accordingly. The other way to get around this, and the better way, if you can get one or manufacture one, people do them for the air arms, is to get an anti-bounce hammer. And we'll talk about these in another video. But it's generally a hammer which is in 2 parts or 3 parts. And what happens is the hammer starts to go towards the outlet valve, part of the body stops, and then the second part continues and strikes the outlet valve stem end, except the part that's hit it is a loose wobbly part, and so it cannot bounce back because it's not under any compression from the spring. So if you've got an air arms, if you get one of these off somebody, they're absolutely fantastic and do put the shot rate up quite a bit. You can get quite a number of more shots, and if it's all tuned correctly once one's fitted. So this is the first thing that you're most likely to come across when fitting a regulator. The only other thing I'll say is just check before you start doing any big alterations that you're not being overly confident and that you can get the amount of shots that you wanted. So just go back, go through the video that says calculating the number of shots, and get somebody to check your maths, or speak to 2 or 3 other people with the same rifle to see what they get. Now it's important you speak to 2 or 3 people because we're all full of bull, and your mate, obviously he wants to have a better rifle than you, and so you might say to him, I'm only getting 70 shots, and just to wind you up a bit and make you think his gun's better, he'll say, oh, I'm getting 120, where really he's not, he's getting 90. So, you know, ask 2 or 3 people and get a general opinion of how many shots you should be getting. And once you've confirmed that, then make these alterations, and that should sort out the valve and hammer bounce. And that's the main big problem that you're going to go across solved.